Hey, hey everyone. So we're going to talk about how to make a cowl in the shape of a tube. Um, and it's a pretty easy method. And when I teach crochet classes, I use this method a lot. I think it's really great for beginners. I usually use a big giant hook. And when it gets up to this hook size, I always say the millimeter, not the number or the letter because it tends to get a little weird the higher up it goes. So just look for 15 millimeter or even 12 millimeter. I've seen some that are 15.75 millimeter, but just a big hook that works well with super bulky yarn. This is probably my favorite yarn. This is Crazy Sexy Wool by Wool and the Gang. It's a single ply, 100% wool. And it's just really gorgeous. It's probably, like I said, my favorite. So to start any crochet project, we start with a slip stitch, or a slip knot, sorry, not a slip stitch. And there's a couple ways I show my students how to make one. First is you make almost like a little fish, and these fingers here in the circle are going to grab over here and pull this through the circle. Just like this, and I hold onto the tail so it doesn't get away from us and pull it like that. And a slip knot will slip back and forth across itself. And when you pull on both sides, it will come apart. Some people know how to make a slip knot just because maybe you're a Girl Scout or you camp or something. But some people don't. Another way I like to show it is just here on just laying it down on the table, and it's the same basic idea. You're kind of just making a little, almost like a little fish shape. And then you can lay the fish over like this and make a pretzel, like that. Here's the tail right there. And if you grab here, point with my hook right there, and you pull up on that, it will make a slip knot. So that kind of helps too. I do it on my hook. Your slip knot should always come out. I just hold it like this, cross it over, and grab this and pull it through. So for those of you who, I don't know, any of those methods might work for you. And then to start chaining, it's kind of important to note actually before we start chaining is the shape of the hook. This part of the hook here is the same size as this part. So when you're making your chains, you always want to push your work back up here because this is going to be the same size here. If you're making them this tight, you'll be able to get your hook out. I can tighten this up pretty good and squeeze my hook out of there. But then when we try and go back in and work in them, it's a little bit trickier to push the chain over the top, which it just is more frustrating than anything. So at least that's what I tell my students because it's kind of a pain to work in the chains. I crochet every day and I don't like working in the chains. So if that's any encouragement to you. So when we crochet, we always wrap this direction around the hook. I think knitters wrap this way. So you always want it to be this direction, and so your yarn is hanging down facing you, not the other direction, okay? So you're wrapping this way. And then you're going to take your hook and pull it through the loop, just like this, and again pushing it up so it's the right size. Sometimes it helps people if I just show them you're grabbing, you can grab this guy here and pull it up and off. And that loop right there, this here is going to get stuck in the hook as you're pulling it over and through. And then you've just got your loop there when you're done. So you can just continue to make chains, trying to use your hook and pulling through just like that. If you're a lefty, it's just the same deal. You're on this side, you're wrapping, and you're pulling through just this way instead of just the other way. Chains aren't that crazy different for righties and lefties. You're just holding it at this point in a different hand. I can tell you horror stories from teaching and not knowing I had a lefty in my class, and I felt pretty bad about it. She's going to make a bunch of chains. If you're following a pattern for a cowl, I have a cowl pattern on my Ravelry, and I will let you guys know the name of that in a second here. But here's a couple of chains that I've made. If you're going to do a cowl, you need the chains to be long enough that will actually fit over your head when you make a circle. So this wouldn't fit around anybody's head, not even a baby. So, but our chains look a little bit like a braid. You can see there's the front side and there's the back side of your chain. Sometimes your chain will be flat, and you might have it accidentally flip over, like it will look like you have front chains and all of a sudden you have back chains. But I always tell them, if you're trying to make your chain straight and flat, it doesn't matter if it looks different. You just don't want it to be flipped like this and have it be twisted at all. The chains below your hook are what count as chains. What's on your hook, this loop right here, doesn't count for anything. It's just the loop on your hook. So if we go ahead and count some chains, we don't start here. We start at the first one next to it. So each chain is each one of these loops that goes down here. So there's another one, and this is the top of the chain, the top loop of the chain. It tends to open up a little easier. The bottom loop is twisted around. You can see it's almost like a little twist at the bottom, and then these are the top loops. So that's where you want to work when we're working.